Welcome to Solar Surge Live, episode 3, isn't it? I'm Andrew, Solar Surge Director, and today we have a special guest. So my brother Luke, who you might have seen, the head of installs, is off on site, so we kicked him out of the office today and we brought in our General Manager, Ebony. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's the first time that she's done this with us, so we'll see how she goes with a few other things. Basically, to break it up, we wanted to do a bit of a Q&A. So I don't think I've really looked at these. It looks like you've got quite a few questions over there for me. And Joe, be interested. So we're going to go through some questions, answers, and what sort of questions are these? Before we go through them, are they questions from clients? Are they pretending I'm pretending to be someone, or what's the situation that you've got for us today, Ebony?
They're just a few general questions.
Yep.
And some questions that the customers probably are thinking themselves.
Okay, cool. All right, fantastic. We may as well jump straight in.
So quick one before we get started. What did you leave running at home today?
What did I leave running?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness me, probably too much. It's actually a funny story. You'll have to pull me up because you know I like talking. My mum's the opposite of me. If she comes to your place, you plug your phone in, you plug your phone in to go to bed.
Yeah.
You wake up the next morning and your phone's dead and you look at it and you go, oh, mum's been here. She's turned all the power points off again. So I'm the opposite. I'm more of a convenience user. So what I mean by that is I like to leave things running. If it's hot, I'll leave the aircon on. If it's cold, I'll keep the heater on. Not while I'm at work for 8 hours, but let's see, what did I leave on today? Pretty sure I left the aircon on. Just in the bedroom. And then in terms of what else did I leave on? We've got the fridges, freezers, pool pump. What else we got? I suppose you could still get all your PowerPoints that I don't turn PowerPoints off, so I've got the TVs, the plasmas, all linked up as well. But the main ones that we'll be doing will be pool pump, chlorinator. We've got the pumps there for the backyard. Fridge, freezers, 2 fridges, 2 freezers, and then my aircon. So a few things.
Right. So most people get that quarterly bill and sigh, pay it, move on. Was there ever a point in your life where a power bill genuinely stung you?
Generally stung me. Yes, not anymore with the solar and battery, but yeah, absolutely. So the ones that sting it's either winter or summer, right? So like in between seasons, it's pretty nice in Australia. Mine are more like summer bills, and the reason for that is I can always throw a jumper on.
Yeah.
But I hate not the heat. If I'm at the beach, I want to be hot. You're in board shorts, you're at the beach. But at home, there's nothing worse than being sweaty and sticky on a leather couch. So when I got a big bill, it was because I was running air conditioning all the time. And again, I'm a convenience user, but a lot of people aren't. So what they say is there's 2 questions that go through their mind when they don't have solar and batteries or a home energy system. They go, oh, geez, it's hot. They usually look at each other and go, honey, is it hot enough yet to turn the air conditioner on? And that the answer is maybe not yet, or yes, it is. When they do get an energy system and it's fully covered, the question isn't that anymore. It's, oh, geez, it's getting a bit warm. Let's turn the air conditioner on. So their frame of mind changes. So I would say definitely summer, on the weekends when it's hot, and I might have, gone out during the day, middle afternoon, and just the aircon's pumping. So that's where I'd use that quite a bit. And I think it was like a $1,500 bill at that time, just for that quarter. And it was getting higher and higher and higher. So I would say if you're a person who likes the heat, you might be a winter bill driver. You might turn the heaters on, but I like the cool. So, my big bill shot was in the summer period.
Yeah, fair enough. So everyone's saying, I can't cop these prices anymore. I need to look at solar. But where do you even start? What's the actual first step?
Okay. We have 3 types of people. We have people who don't have solar. So the first place to start is with an assessment of your energy use before you jump in and slap something on your roof or get a battery and a system. So if you don't have, all of it starts with an energy assessment. But if we have the 3 types of customers, we've got one without solar at all, and they're probably getting the biggest bills.
Yeah.
So the first thing is do an energy assessment on your situation, break it down with a professional, not just throw something up there. Look at your last 12 months of usage, look at your future plans, Don't just throw something up. Have a really good detailed analysis, because that can mean the difference between having a zero electricity usage bill over the next 20 years or potentially having a bill, 3 months after it goes up. Second user will be someone that has solar, might have inherited it, so bought the house with it on there, might have thrown it on many years ago, might have thrown it on just now. So the second bucket is people who are still getting a decent bill, and they're big users of power, and the solar isn't creating enough to throw on a battery yet as well. So they're using most of their power during the night, and they just can't plug a battery into the system yet. So they need to start again with an energy assessment, work out what percentage they're using at night, the amount of kilowatts at night across the period, work out how many additional panels they need to put on, plus a battery. And the third one is people who might have a fairly recent system, again, inherited it, bought it themselves, but it's a big system. It's producing a lot of surplus, and this is where it's feeding back into the grid. So we assess what's going back into the grid, called a feed-in credit, and everyone knows feed-in credit started really high, 50 cents, dwindled down, and now, sometimes it's zero, up to 2 cents, in kilowatt feed-in. So they're not getting the benefit, and their obligation is probably stick a battery on, and that knocks their bill out. So first always starts with an energy assessment, but they're the three types of people that we come across.
Yeah. So most solar companies open with, how many kilowatts do you want? First question is, what was your last power bill and why?
Yeah. Yes. So, and the reason being is that how many kilowatts you want that's a typical sales company wanting to sell you as many kilowatts as possible. With the rebates, and there is incentives to sell a larger system. So I'm not surprised. That is a question. We always start with the bill. You got to start with something. You got to start with what actually you're paying. So the first one is get your last few bills out. Let's have a bit of a look at it. See exactly how much you're renting your power for per kilowatt and your total bill. And that's the first baseline. A lot more to it, but that's the first thing we would look at is pulling out those bills and assessing, okay, well, how much are we paying on our bill, and how much is that going to cost us over the next 30 years?
Okay, so you've got the dollar figure. What do you ask next, and why does that matter?
So the dollar figure, and then what do we look at next? It's all about energy use. So let's just say in 10 years' time, the electricity usage goes from, or the cost per kilowatt, let's just call it peak, goes from, say, 40 cents a kilowatt up to $1 a kilowatt, which is, it sounds crazy, but, everyone thought the property prices wouldn't go where they are now as well. So I'm pretty sure it's going to happen. It's not about the amount or the dollar amount from that point. The assessment takes a step deeper, and it goes into exactly how many kilowatts they're using during the day and during the night. So then what it comes down to, it doesn't matter what price the kilowatt goes to, $1, $2 a kilowatt, if you're offsetting it, you're offsetting a greater amount in the future as well. So it really comes down to day-night usage, because there's three parts of your bill: day use, night use, and then that daily supply charge. And when we look at customers, we try to go for a zero usage bill, which means that as an average, we knock out the day usage, knock out the night usage. So then regardless of what the price of power goes to, you're covered as well. So that would be my next one. Go deeper into the day-night kilowatt usage.
Okay. What are the appliances that quietly do the most damage to a typical household's install?
Appliance or children? Mine is my children. Using their appliances, obviously, or their gaming devices and stuff like that. So myself, I like the coffee pod machines. They're nice and easy to use, but they do have a high peak draw. So when you've got those coffee pods machines, whether it's an Aldi, an espresso, whatever it may be, they're all built off the same sort of systems. They're a really big drawer of power. The next culprit, they're becoming a little bit more energy efficient, is air fryers.
Okay.
So it's a big no-no when you go camping. When you've got a battery and you're doing off-grid camping, is you don't plug your air fryer in, because it's going to drain your battery. Same goes with your house as well. Obviously, your house battery is substantially bigger than a camper van battery. Same thing. Air fryers draw a lot of power for such little devices. And then you've got your usual culprits. You've got pool heating. So it depends whether or not you've got solar pool heating or a heat pump. If you've got solar pool heating, then obviously that's not a drain. But if you don't, heat pumps draw a lot of power as well. Filtering systems, air conditioning units, ducted air conditioning is a big one.
What about the dryers and the dryer?
Absolutely. Dryers are absolutely atrocious. So you can't just hang it out there. It takes 3 days to dry. So dryers, kids on their devices at all hours. I got up the other night and I went to the bathroom, came back out. I was like, what's that noise? It was my son up there playing games with his friends on the PlayStation or Xbox or whatever they've got. So look, everyone's a little bit different. It comes down to us as adults. I find ours are more about, waking up before the sun comes up, turning the coffee machine on, getting a coffee, tradies going out, cooking breakfast, and then, all the things around that, the air conditioning units, and then the kids.
Walk me through a real example. Typical Queensland family of 4, what are they actually paying per quarter right now?
In terms of dollar.
Yeah.
Typical family 4, anywhere from $700 to about $1,100 a quarter. So that's pretty based in fact. Obviously depend on the house, pools, air conditioners and their use. But I'd confidently say that 90% of all families that are, a couple with a couple of kids, a family unit, $700 to $1,100. Again, you're going to have your ones on the end. You're going to have some a little bit lower and some substantially higher, depending on the size of the house and everything like that. But $700 to $1,000, which, if you average it, it's just about $3,800 to $4,200 a year. And I don't know about anyone, but I'm pretty sure that I can bet my kid's life on it that electricity prices aren't going to go down over the long term. So yeah, I would say that most people are paying anywhere from 40 to 70,000 over the next 10 years just to rent their power.
Right. And what's driving that number? Is it how much they use or when they use it?
Combination of both. When you use it, a lot of people have peak charges. And when does most people use their power? When they wake up, so the demand on the grid's high. And when people wake up, there's not a lot of sun out because it's morning. So there's not a lot of solar going back into the grid to give even, a larger amount of surplus power. So less power, high demand, higher prices. And then when do they usually not use their power? Well, we're at work now. Solar's not getting used as much. You've got your general appliances that you're running, fridge, freezers. All that surplus goes back into the grid. Using power during the day is normally a cheaper rate. And then when do you normally go home? Especially in winter, and sometimes it feels like I leave when the sun is dark or it is dark, and then I come home when it's dark. Is you're home and you're cooking again and again, sun's down, prices of power are high because supply and demand as well. So it usually comes down to those things where you can use them. If you can utilize the power during the day, then fantastic. But that's why people at night have really high charges, is because it's just a peak demand. And that's why a battery obviously helps cover those sort of things.
So some people hear that number and go, it hurts, but I'll just turn the lights off more and wear it. You talk about the cost of inaction. What is that?
Yeah, okay, turn the lights off. I suppose that's one strategy. But they're not going to be able to cook. They're not going to be able to clean. They're not going to be able to watch TV. So where do you draw the line? So again, I'm a convenience user, and I don't go out of my way to use more power than I need. But if we're talking about cost of saving electricity, there's better ways than living in the dark.
Yeah.
Because it's not going away. And regardless, you're going to have to use power at some time, unless you don't plan to keep your meat cold, use your freezer. Don't plan to use electricity in an oven. Then you got to pay for gas. You got to use barbecue. It's gas. You can't escape it. So if someone said that, I think they're probably just thinking as a reaction as opposed to really thinking about what they're saying. So the cost of inaction really comes down to whenever we sit with someone, regardless of whether or not they proceed with an energy solution or whatever that solution may look like, and they don't, they're not saying yes or no to proceeding with an energy solution. They're saying yes to savings, or they're saying no, I want to continue to rent them.
Yeah.
So the cost of inaction really comes down to having a chat with a person and getting to understand the fundamental of it is exactly like they're buying their house. And I always explain this to people. If I could go into a time machine, transport myself back 5 years, 10 years to when they bought their house or whenever, and say, would you, if given the choice, and I could convince you to rent your house for the rest of your life as opposed to buying it, do you think you'd be in a better or worse position? And I haven't had one person come back and say, oh, no, Andrew, I would have been in a better position by renting. And electricity is going exactly the same way. It's the only way to get control of it is to own it. So they're going from renting to owning for less than what they're paying. And that's what the cost of inaction is. It's getting clients to understand that the cost of inaction is a long-term thing. So we get them to understand how much they're going to be paying over the next 10 years, 20 years by reaching their power and just running the numbers on what they're going to save by owning their own power. And then that way the numbers speak for themselves.
So what does the quarterly bill actually add up to over 10, 20, 30 years? Run the maths for us.
Yeah, it's pretty simple maths. And the reason it's simple is that it's never going to go down. So there's not a lot of changes in it. And if we're talking at averages, obviously, because there's no future prediction. But if you look at the last 30 years or since 1980, the cost of power, which includes, peak rates, non-peak rates, off-peak loads, as well as daily supply charges, has gone up by around 1,250%. That's not 1,250 times, that's 1,250%. So we have 12.5 times across the average, across the industry. If we're looking at a person with $1,000 bill, for example, a lot of the people go, oh, well, that $1,000 is $4,000 a year multiplied by 10 years, it's 40,000. Yeah, that gives them an idea, but it's actually not true. So what you actually need to do, if I just do the maths roughly in my head, is you've got to multiply that by 12% year on year because it does compound. So a $1,000 bill a quarter is $4,000 a year. It works out to be around about $80,000 over the course of the 10 years, and then it extrapolates to maybe $160,000 to $200,000. So if I was to say here, I can put my hand on my heart and say the average, you mentioned the four-person household is most likely spending anywhere from 150 to about 220,000 over the next 20 years on their power bills. Sounds outrageous, but again, all I do is say, look, refer yourself back to the property industry and what happened, and everyone did not think it was going to go the way it did, and it has. And then ask them if they've ever seen their electricity bill go substantially down. And the answer is no on both of those fronts, that it hasn't been great. So if we just use the past performance for a future prediction, and that's all we have the best information for to be able to do, is that's what most people are paying over the next 10, 20 years.
And why do you think people panic about the next bill but never look at that long-term number?
The reason being is that we're very good at seeing things right in front of our face, and we're gluttons for punishment, and we have short-term memories. So why do I drink after I was just hungover? The next day, it's like I'm never drinking again. You know what I mean? And then you have a bit of fun on a Friday and you're like, oh, I enjoy this. So look, we do have pretty short-term memories. And what that does is it's an uncomfortable conversation and we move away from that pain.
Yeah.
So when we have that bill, it hurts because it's here and it's now. And then we've got to find the money and we pay it. And then it never gets more painful for that because we don't think about, okay, what's this bill actually mean? This bill doesn't mean $1,000. I say to people, well, if you got $1,000 bill, and I bet you most of it probably think, oh, yeah, it's $1,000 problem, right? No. Have a look at what that bill's going to cost you over the next 20 years. You actually have a $200,000 problem. And if you look at it and you go, okay, when do I start planning for retirement? Should I start planning for retirement when I retire? Or should I start now when I can actually take benefit of it in the future? Same thing with your renting. It's an investment. You either going to spend the money to rent or you're going to save the money and you can put it to better use. So $200,000 I know is better off in a mortgage. If you paid your house off, fantastic. You're one of the lucky few. Holidays, cost of living is going up, offset some of those costs. You have a child, have a baby, you know, you're not having that burden of one person to be able to provide an extra, $10,000 gross, $15,000 gross. You still got to pay tax on it. And that's what a lot of people don't realize is it's after tax money. It's not $1,000. Sometimes you got to earn $2,000 approximately to get that $1,000 ballpark. So in relation to that, that's what I would say is I'm guilty of it. We have short-term memories and we move away from pain and it's an uncomfortable conversation. So we pay it, we move on, we bury our head in the sand and think there's better. Life just gets in the way.
Yeah. That's where the rent idea comes in, right? So explain what you mean when you say people are renting their power.
Yeah, okay. Well, basically kilowatts is like kilograms. So what kilograms is to weight and kilowatts is to energy. So the way it works is you basically use the power throughout the course of the month or the course of the quarter, depending on how you bill, and then they bill you in arrears. So it's the perfect equivalent of rent. The only way that if you're renting a property, you've got to pay your rent in advance and then you get used to that property. So it's just a behind schedule payment. So you're using it and then you're paying for that use. You can't get it and then, You know what I mean? Do anything really with it outside of using it. So when we're talking about renting to owning, or we're just saying, well, we just want to transfer you from renting your own power to owning your own power for less than what it's costing you now. So the whole idea is that we're just changing ownership. And if you have a look at your house, you've got mortgages, you've got insurance, you've got your rates and your water. They're split now. They're all going up, right? Usually interest rates go up, and insurance is never going down. Your rates is going up, and your water bill always goes up. And then your last one's your electricity. So you've got to obviously pay to live somewhere. Electricity is the only one of those 5 key components that you can actually own, and not have anything to do with. Obviously, your house you can own, but you've got to still pay it off, and you've got high interest rates. So the one that can immediately affect and can change is your rent of your power. And that's what I say to people is, it's, if you can take control of it and it's an asset to your house, that we're only talking about the savings. We haven't even talked about the fact that if I was buying a house and they were exactly the same, side by side, one had a 13 kilowatt solar system and a 30 kilowatt battery, and I knew that I was going to have a $0 bill, and the other one I'm going to have to find an extra $5,000 a year, it makes it, one, more attractive. So you're marketing to a greater number of people like myself. And 2, you're going to get more money for it because, they know that they're going to have a $0 bill for the rest of their life, or as close to practicality as you can. And if anyone goes to realestate.com, they've got filters now. And why do they put a filter in? It means it's a really high search in it. And now there's a solar filter. So if you don't have it and you go to sell your house, you're going to miss out on an entire market. So benefit while you got it, add value to your house and make your house more attractive. Like, there's literally nothing that I can come up with the negative outside of the usual BS that people say is it's going to catch fire. And I always say, well, I've never seen someone drive a battery into a car before. It stays stagnant, and they're extraordinarily safe these days with lithium iron phosphate, a highly stable compound, not one recorded fire on the CEC when it's installed correctly as well. So look, that's just a fear because they see a Tesla on fire, but they remember that Tesla drove off the side of a bridge, and like, yeah. So but let's put things into practicality, real terms.
Quick one before we wrap up. People who already have solar are noticing they get paid less and less for the power they export.
Yes.
On there.
What's going on is incentives. Why does the government incentivize us? They want us to do it, right? So when renewable energy first came out, feels like a long time ago now, but it's only a fairly new industry. Like, we're talking 20, 25 years on the very newest stage of it, is they wanted people to get into solar. And we call them early adopters, the first people that get into it before it becomes mainstream. And then we have the mainstreamers. So the goal of the government was to get the early adopters to adopt solar in a faster fashion, and then bridge the gap between the mainstreamers and get them into it as well. So what they did is they released feed-ins, basically 50 cents. So what that means is if you produced more power than your household needs, every kilowatt you sold back to the grid, you got 50 cents, which is crazy. Like, it sounds ridiculous now. Wish we could have it, but we've done it. See what I mean? Can't unwind the clock. So what was happening is they were getting solar and their entire bill was eliminated. Pretty good incentive, word of mouth, and it just boomed. More people got solar. And then the more people that get it, the less they have to incentivize.
Yeah.
Because adopted, what the goal was is they wanted people to take less reliance off the grid at the time. So solar came out, early adopters came in there, it took off, more people got onto it. They went, we don't have to incentivize as much. We're going to scale the program back, 47 cents, 42 cents, 38 cents, 30 cents. And it sort of dwindled until they basically stopped the program because they're like, you know what? It's self-sustaining industry now. They're creating the industry, it's self-sustaining. They don't need to incentivize it as much. There was still incentives from the retailer level. This high feed-in was backed by the government, so it was a different style. So when we got into solar, it was still like 15, 18 cent feed-ins, which was still fantastic, which still meant solar only could give you a really good benefit at the time.
Yeah.
So now you have 2 issues. 1, there's lots of people with solar, so they don't have to incentivize it. And 2, you've got lots of people with solar feeding back into a grid with too much power.
Yeah.
And now the grid actually has a double-edged sword. Too much power going into it during the day, and it's starting to create an imbalance in the infrastructure. Lo and behold, government steps back in, and this is where infrastructure charges start to mount up. Okay, if this continues the way it's going, we're now going to have to upgrade transformers, line networks. It becomes this multi-billion, and it's already happening. So they already have to do it. So don't be surprised if electricity bills jump over the next 4 or 5 years more than what the estimate is. So then they went, we need to take power off the grid now. So what do? Now we've got the rebates for the batteries. It's sliding scale. It's coming back down again. So you've probably got a little bit left of those rebates, but again, it'll do the same thing. And what's the goal of the battery is rather than the solar go into the grid, it goes into the battery. Again, it resolves that issue of going back into the grid. So then they can protect the infrastructure, not have to upgrade it as quickly. Problem one fixed, as well as the demand before the sun rises and after the sun sets. They're now the clients are now creating their own self-sustainable sort of situation with their own power stations, not relying on the grid as well. It's going to get to that economy of scales point of view shortly, where the incentives are going to stop because, again, it'll become a self-sustaining industry. With the battery side of things, those, I suppose, incentives, rebates, as you call them, will drop off, and the industry will continue along. But it's now a good time to look at it because people go, the rebates will continue to go, but they won't. They're going to be dropping off very, very quickly, and they already are.
We've got 3 more.
3 more? Oh, we've got 3 more questions. Okay.
If you moved into a new house tomorrow, what's your step-by-step before you'd even think about ordering a system?
Okay. Step by step. First thing is, moved in tomorrow. I would straight away call my energy retailer, and depending on, can I ask a question? Do I have solar? No solar at all?
You don't have any solar?
No solar. Okay, cool. I don't know if you said that. I might have forgotten. Okay, cool. So no solar. So I'd walk in there and I would basically choose the energy retailer with the sharpest rate regardless. No lock-ins, just sharpest rate. And then what I would do is I would just use my power as I normally would. I wouldn't try to save money. I would use my usage just as a convenience user or how I want to live my life. If people live it differently, just live how you live. And I would wait about 2 weeks and I would call my retailer back. Some have an app, so I could probably monitor it. So I'd probably choose one of the ones that I can monitor it straight away. And I would see my daily use. From there, I would call myself, Solar Search Australia, and I would get one of the guys out. And then I would how I would choose, and this comes down to how I choose a solar company as well, which we did an episode on. I won't break that down. But how I would choose or how I would want the company to go through is to educate me on how they've sized the system for me. So the most important thing for me is use your power as you normally would, so that that it's actually a real energy use. The company that comes with you, don't just get them to say, or don't accept them just to say, oh, you're going to get this system and it's going to give you this savings, which a lot of them do. Get them to explain how they've system sized correctly, accounted for your day use, accounted for your night use, and how they've protected you for the future as well. So, because I might say to one, I might be building a pool out the back if I don't have a pool. So you've got to think about the things that you're going to be doing for the next couple of years. And if you don't know, if you've got any plans, account for a 30% increase and then you've accounted for it. Because if you're going to do it first time, we have a rule, do it right.
Yeah.
And if you've got a 30% buffer, you're covered for life. And if you don't do a buffer, if you make one change that costs a little bit more energy during the day, and you have an extra child, and you start using your energy a little bit more because now you've got a battery and you think it's a magic wand, then you're going to come back with an electricity bill. So first step is use your power as normal, monitor it for a couple of weeks, get a proper company in to do an assessment and make sure they explain how they've system sized, and then refer back to my accreditation checklist, make sure they meet those requirements, oversize it by 30%, and you're good to go.
Yeah, right. And how do you know what size is right for your house? Not too small, not paying for capacity you'll never use.
Well, it's a catch-22 as well, is because we use power a little bit differently throughout the year, right?
Yeah.
And it's so if you look at it into that much detail, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. Now, I said too much detail in the wrong way. So what I mean by that is if you try to work out how much you're using it every single time of every single day and every single month, every single season, you're going to do your head in. And then what'll happen is you basically paralyze yourself with information. What it's about is choosing your largest bill.
Yeah.
You work off your largest bill. And the reason you work off your largest bill is if you worked off your littlest bill, and when you get your largest bill, you're still going to have a bill, So like, I didn't have to say that out loud, but and hopefully the pick could have enough common sense. Is if you use the largest bill and you account for a 30% buffer, basically you've knocked out all the risk associated with system sizing at the very least. And the reason for that is I think I go through it all the time, and I sound like a broken record. Is I think I said it earlier. People use more power when they've got a solar or battery system.
Yeah.
Some people think it's a magic wand. They can automatically use 100 kilowatts a day, run their ducted air conditioning day, night, TVs, and everything like that. It's not a magic wand. It is a wand, and it does help, but it's practical. Like, if you factor in a slight buffer, yes, you're going to be comfortable and you're going to be okay. So in terms of the analysis side of things, it's not I wouldn't worry about being a little bit too big. The bigger concern is paying good money for something that's too small. Because the difference between a system that knocks your bill out today and the system size that knocks your bill out, if you start using more power, the cost difference isn't that great. Because you're already paying for the workmanship warranties across the system, the products. You might have to pay for a few extra products and maybe a little bit extra time, but the majority of the costs are already chewed up into the project. So if you undersize it, to then get someone to come back, if you can imagine, they have to then go back, read through the system, reconfigure it. So they've got to go back on site. There's extra call outs, there's extra charges. So you can substantially drive your costs up. So what I would say to people, choose your largest month, account for a 30% buffer, and the price difference between that and going a smaller system isn't that great. So I would say you're focusing on the wrong thing. If you're oversizing it, focusing on the savings, and then focus on the convenience of being able to turn the air conditioner on when it's hot, and you never used to do that as well. So they're the main things that I would focus on.
For the listeners who want their own numbers, their bill, their usage pattern, their cost of inaction, without doing the maths themselves, how does this instant AI audit work, and how long does it take?
Doesn't take too long. Well, again, depends how savvy you are with a computer, but I would say sometimes I'm not the savviest like my kids. I don't know, less than 60 seconds.
Okay.
It's not a lot of information because we built it to be really pragmatic and simple and solution oriented. So it's just about inputting some of the data in that you've got, which you already know. Like, if you just got your last bill, you know what your bill was most of the time. And again, if you don't know exactly, I wouldn't say, put it in the too hard basket. I would just say, take the best guesstimate that you've got and just, put it in there, so it gives you an idea as well. So if I was thinking, was it 800 or 900? Just put in the 900.
Yeah.
And then we can reassess it as well. So with the AI, I think it's 60 seconds, gives you a really good idea exactly, what the savings potentially could be. Because we're one of those companies where we'd rather people's eyes wide open, know what you're getting into, know the solution, know the result, and then have transparency. So you've got access to the apps, access to the monitoring on both of the solar production as well as the battery as well as us. So then it's about creating a streamlined, transparent approach as opposed to just slapping something up there. So you're not buying a product. You're buying a solution.
Yeah.
So like, I say to the people is sometimes dealing with these sales companies, it's like buying a fake BMW or a fake Mercedes-Benz. It's like just getting a Chinese knockoff and just throwing a Mercedes-Benz sticker on it. And the thing about that is you don't know what you're getting underneath the hood.
Yeah.
And that's what I say to people. It's not what you can see, because any car will get you from A to B. It's what you can't see is the safety aspects of it, the installation, the warranties, the company, the aftercare, all the intangibles that people don't think about. Anyone can install it cheaply.
Yeah.
But not everyone can install it and be around in 5 years' time to take your call.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what I say to people is that's the most important part of the entire process is company to company, but start with someone that doesn't just try to capture your phone number, name, just to give you a call. We take it a step further to be able to give you an energy analysis. And we built that for education. Well, every single one of our customers are educated. If you're educated, you understand. If you understand, then you've got a really good idea exactly how this solution works for you. And if it works for you, that's why we've got such good ratings on Google, is that we don't take customers on unless they understand.
Yeah.
So yes, it takes a little bit longer, Yes, we have to come out and do an energy assessment at your house. But like I say, we do it right. We do it the first time, or we don't do it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've turned people away who don't want to do it the right way, and that's okay. Not a problem. But when they turn around and blame the industry, it's like, well, takes two to tango, and you didn't want to do it right. You just wanted the cheapest. So I say to people, put your hand on your heart and say, do you want the cheapest, or do you want the right result? And if people are honest with themselves, they're probably thinking, I want the right result. And then there's a caveat. I don't want to be ripped off, obviously. That's a different story. But they want the right result. And that's what I say to people is just think it in that context. But there's always people that want the cheapest. And that's why there's a market for it. And that's why factories don't get commissioned correctly. There's faults and all those sorts of things as well. So buy cheap is usually the most expensive investment that you'll ever have. And that's the day of install.
Yeah.
Any other questions that we got or none? Great day. Excellent. Fantastic. All right. Well, thanks very much for joining us, guys. Watch the next episode. We've got a couple of really good ones coming out. I think we've got one where we test the strength of a panel. Sounds interesting. All right. Thanks. Thanks for joining us, Soul Search Live.
Thanks.